good morning, everyone. I realise that I am the only thing between you and your coffee. And we are already 10 minutes behind schedule, and I'm supposed to give a 20-minute presentation, which would mean coffee would be half an hour late, which I realise in Greece is totally unacceptable. So all the slides that I have prepared, you can have them, which allows me to speed through them very quickly. So I will try and do this in as short a time as I possibly can. So I do apologise to the translators at the back of the room, because I might be speaking rather quickly. Okay, here we go. So I want to pick up a couple of points that the Minister mentioned, particularly around capacity building. And in your final slide, sir, you said that all of this has to take place within a vibrant, scientific and entrepreneurial environment. So my message is all about creating those entrepreneurial environments within which innovation can take place. And to give a bit of background as to why HEInnovate is such a good tool to help us achieve this. So I'd hope that all of us in this room agree entrepreneurship is important, but I guess not all of our colleagues in academia accept this statement. And that is one of our big challenges. But it is important because universities and all higher education institutions are under immense pressure at the moment. Many governments do not have the funds to keep paying higher education in the way that they would like to. Industry wants different types of graduates. Just giving them knowledge and basic skills is no longer enough. They want more than that. Parents want their children to have a great education. The students themselves want the best career that they can have. But also knowledge is no longer the unique domain of universities. And as the Minister was saying, the amount of research in the private sector is huge. So there's a lot of knowledge generated outside of universities. And with the digital technological disruption through the 4IR and other platforms, the whole higher education sector is being challenged. It's been challenged about what is its purpose, what is its identity, what should it be doing, how should it be doing it. So we're under a lot of pressure. And it's when we have these environments that are very complex, highly pressurized, very uncertain, highly unpredictable, that's when we need to be able to provide an entrepreneurial response, to be able to thrive and succeed in those types of environments. If we knew what was going to happen tomorrow, if we knew what was going to be happening next month, we don't need to be entrepreneurial. We just need to be good managers, good administrators. But that's not the world that we currently live in. The other reason that entrepreneurship is important, and the Minister spoke a lot about innovation, is that entrepreneurship drives innovation. You don't get innovation if you don't have entrepreneurial people. Entrepreneurial people think and act differently. They see the world differently. They spot the things that other people don't spot. So if you want to enhance and drive innovation, you need more people with entrepreneurial mindsets, entrepreneurial attitudes. So there's a real imperative for universities to build these entrepreneurial capacities, not just in their students and their graduates, but their staff and their stakeholders. So Peter put up a slide that mentions some dimensions about what is an entrepreneurial university, but I think of it or frame it in two simple dimensions. The first dimension is the university is an organization in itself. And that organization needs to be entrepreneurial in the way that it thinks and the way that it acts. And it needs to embed those mindsets and those actions in its structures, its policies, and its practices, so it can respond to these highly unpredictable environments. So that's the one dimension. The other dimension is that universities need to be fantastic spaces and places which support, enable, and encourage other people to be entrepreneurial and innovative. So if we think of an entrepreneurial university across those two dimensions, I think it helps us to understand what we can do and how we can do it. And I think Peter mentioned that, we need to broaden our perspective of what we mean when we're talking about entrepreneurship. And it's not just about research, it's not just about startups, but it's about a range of other areas where we need entrepreneurial thinking, as suggested on the slide. Do we need an academic revolution? Well, some universities are so embedded in their ecosystems and their networks that they change with their stakeholders, a sort of almost like an accidental change process. Many universities set up their 5-year plans, their 10-year plans, and they have a very positive incremental change process that supports their current identity and purpose. But there are a few universities who believe that that is not enough, that they need to go through a more radical revolution where they review their structures, their policies, their practices. They destroy what they have to replace it with something that is better aligned for the modern world. And an example of that is Arizona State University in America. So this report, published by the Kauffman Foundation, is by Michael Crow, the president of Arizona State. And when he took over Arizona State, it was a middle-ranking, good American university. But he realized that if it was going to meet the needs of society, the needs of the economy, the sorts of things that the minister was talking about, that the way that that university is structured, it could not deliver that. So he took down faculties, he took down departments, and he replaced them with brand new institutes, brand new centers, highly multidisciplinary, where people work together, co-collaborating with industry partners, co-collaborating with society. And that model is now being held up as the role model for a 21st century research-intensive university. So that's why radical revolution is sometimes not just important, but necessary. But to do this, we need entrepreneurial leaders. So we need people who can see things differently, who can spot opportunities, develop them, make things happen. And in universities, most decision makers, managers want to be a little, or can be more entrepreneurial because they can learn how to do that. The challenge is whether they want to be more entrepreneurial. And I'll come back to that point in a minute. So what we're talking about is developing entrepreneurial leaders of all different kinds at different levels in the organization. And this is not new. This has been going on for several years now. I mean, there's lots of books about entrepreneurial leadership. There's programs, there's courses, just a few samples on the slide there. Even our Christian church in the UK now realizes it needs to have church leaders who are entrepreneurial leaders because they want their church to thrive and be successful. So they want it to be empowered, effective, entrepreneurial, bring in their congregation, make it work and be exciting for the 21st century. So this is not just about business and industry. This is about society. When I was in my previous role, I was chief executive of the National Centre for Entrepreneurship in Education in the UK. So we developed a program specifically to help university leaders become more entrepreneurial. We ran a program for the leaders of small and medium-sized businesses to help them be entrepreneurial. This created 2,500 new jobs for Wales, the country I am from, and added over £50 million to the Welsh economy. And now we have an entrepreneurial leaders program for decision makers and managers in universities and colleges that runs right across Asia, helping those to think and act in a more entrepreneurial way. And if you look at some of the work from Babson College by Neil Thornbury, he says that we need to think about entrepreneurial leaders as different types. Some of them are outward going. They like to be out at the forefront, the adventurers, finding new things in the external environment. Some of them like to dig around inside the organization and find new opportunities. They're the miners. Some of them want to just accelerate, make things work better. Others want to be good at integrating people and processes. So we need all of these in a university. We need all of these types of people. We need to understand them and look at how we can encourage them and develop them and help them to work together. If we only focus on academic entrepreneurs, we're only focusing on a small minority of the total staff population. What we actually want is good and more academic entrepreneurs, but we want the rest of the staff, the rest of the academics, to have an entrepreneurial mindset, an entrepreneurial attitude and approach to their work. And they are the larger population that we can work for. So if you think about knowledge transfer, on the right side, you might have the more traditional, harder, academic entrepreneur type of activity. On the left side, the softer activities that an entrepreneurial academic is more likely to get involved in, but not necessarily wanting to be an entrepreneur. And they're more relational, more people-based. So we need to think about how we can encourage all of these within our institutions. But there are challenges. Entrepreneurship has different meanings to different people. Some people think that it's an ideological threat. They think if we bring entrepreneurship in, we're bringing in capitalism, and that's going to destroy the university. But we need to think about how we reorganize people, reorganize knowledge in our institution so that it enhances entrepreneurial capacity building. The opportunity is for us to review what we do, why we do it, and how we do it, and use that to develop these entrepreneurial capacities. So when was the last time in your university that you thought from an entrepreneurial point of view, how do your structures and policies, how does your view of entrepreneurship, how does your curriculum, your staff development programs, your collaborations, your stakeholder networks, how does all of that enable entrepreneurship rather than inhibit entrepreneurship? The killer question at the bottom of the slide with your stakeholders is going to your stakeholders and asking them, what would your life be like if we didn't exist tomorrow? And I think if you can find that your value that you're adding to that stakeholder means that their life would be different, then you're certainly in a way of developing those positive relations. So we do need to think about how we develop academic entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial academics. To make that work well, that's got to be in a university environment that has an entrepreneurial culture. And the universities need to be operating within an entrepreneurial ecosystem. And if we can find ways to make all of those elements work, then we've got a very good basis for stimulating an entrepreneurial platform to drive innovation forwards. So Mohammed Yunus, who won the Nobel Prize for his work in the Grameen Bank, in all the years that it took him to get that to work, he said, my greatest challenge has been to change the mindset of people. The way we see things, the way our minds have instructed our eyes to see. So if we want to see things differently, we have to change the way that we think, our mindset. And so mindset development is really important. There's a great phrase that you may be familiar with, and that is that if you stay as you are, you stay where you are. Yeah? So if we want to be in a different place, and the minister is telling us we need to be in a different place, then you can't stay as you are, as a person, as an organization. So we need to think, we need to change ourselves, but we also need to think about how we change our organizations. A very quick run through. I hope that's okay. You'll have all the slides, but thank you for your attention. Thank you.